Hello, you've found yourself at the Student Midwife podcast with your host, Kimberly Henderson. I'm a mother to 4. I'm a farmer. I'm a student midwife and doula and amateur herbalist, among other things. Activist. All keeps me extremely busy. I wouldn't recommend starting midwifery school in your mid-40s when you're starting perimenopause and when the world is like collapsing into chaos. What a wild ride. and half of the kids you have are teenagers and the other half are very young. My 2 oldest are adopted. They're from my husband's former marriage, and then I've got 2 biological kids. So it's a wild ride around here. Not to mention I've got a ton of animals to take care of. I have my mother-in-law lives right next door to us. She's an amazing woman, though. She's a blessing and a half. I don't know how I would do it all without her, honestly. She keeps me sane and fed and takes care of my children a lot for me. She's about to be basically the full-time caregiver while I go out to Wisconsin to do an apprenticeship. Well, fingers crossed. If I can ever get that student Wisconsin license, that has been a freaking wild ride right there. But I don't want to get into the boring bureaucracy of state midwifery laws. Any of you that have studied midwifery know how excruciatingly horrible those laws can be. So, but no, we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about I'm going to try to think of something happy and joyful to talk about. I've been thinking a lot about starting this podcast, and I always think about all the negative things happening in this country with birth and midwifery, and the way midwives are still scorned and looked down upon, and we're kind of like treated like beauty school dropouts that, needed some purpose in our life, so we became midwives, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The midwives I know are very accomplished, capable, hardworking, professional people. So I think it's so hilarious sometimes to hear people talking about midwives like, aren't you guys just like doulas? Like, aren't you just glorified, support people for people in labor? It's like, no, no. It's so much more than that. We are medical professionals, and it does feel good that the midwives who have come before me in recent decades have really pushed to get that recognition, to get that licensure, and to get us legalized. But the states are still kind of, I don't know, the antiquity, the way midwifery's been looked down upon in America. It's still hard to move out of that space. We're still fighting that struggle. Probably especially for brown and black midwives, I would imagine. As we know, racism is still very rampant in this country. And I know that just having white skin gives me a level of privilege that, my colleagues that are brown and black just don't have. And that's really sad. I mean, I've heard it firsthand. I've heard people say things like, I wouldn't hire her. They try to say it, like a cultural thing. I wouldn't hire her because she wouldn't understand my culture. But when you hear that, that what they mean is I wouldn't hire her because she's black. Which bums me out. I don't know. But let's talk about something that's fun, something that's good that's happening. I'm seeing a lot of pushback in a lot of states that have recently had some pretty serious abortion bans happen. Like I just saw something come across my news radar about misoprostol still being available by mail, I think in all 50 states, to help a woman have a mail order abortion, for lack of a better term. So that's good. I'm glad that's still available, because otherwise some states would literally have no way, unless you left the state, which some people literally can't do. There'd be no way to have an abortion. And I know firsthand how very easy it can be to get accidentally pregnant. And I know that can be a heartbreaking thing to hear if you struggle with fertility issues. But some people really, it's very easy to get pregnant, and it can be devastating and life-changing, obviously. If you've ever raised a baby, if you've ever raised kids, you understand exactly how much work goes into raising a person from infancy up to adulthood, and how many tears and like sleepless nights you as a parent have just like trying to figure it all out. I mean, with my kids, I cried at least 3 times just today thinking about, that's why my eyes are kind of red and puffy today, just thinking about all the things like that we are facing as a family, and like trying to figure everything out for them, and trying to figure out what's best for them and their lives. The old ones and the young ones, the teenagers and the little ones, like they have different challenges, but they're definitely, I feel like we have all the things. And it can be very overwhelming. So we have to keep abortion legal. It's just absurd that certain lawmakers want to take that away from women, and men get absolutely no consequences. I mean, sometimes they have to pay child support, but let's be honest, that's not even always the case. So anyway, I wasn't going to talk about sad things, but I feel depressed and down, and I feel like I kind of have to. I was reading a thing in bed this morning before I even got out of bed about how in ICE detention centers there are lots of pregnant people, some as young as 13, and they are not getting any medical care. They are oftentimes sleeping on cement floors. They might not even have blankets. They're not getting prenatal vitamins. They're not getting good nutrition. They're not having access to doctors on a regular basis. Some are giving birth alone in a cell. How is it the quote-unquote pro-life party is in favor of this? I just don't understand. There's nothing pro-life about that. If we were really a culture and a society that valued life, we wouldn't be treating people like that. Like, that's just insane to me. It's insane. Pregnancy isn't a sickness or an illness, but it is a very special time in a woman's life when they need special care. And that, like, I think anyone can understand that. Like, it's not that complicated to understand that regular access to a doctor or a midwife is really crucial during this time of a person's life. And they should not be locked up, and they should not be sleeping on a cement floor with little to no access to healthy food, with, maybe not even a blanket, not knowing when they're going to be released, not knowing what their fate is. That is extreme stress, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And I just can't believe that this administration thinks that is okay. So those are the kind of things that break my heart and make me into an activist. Like, I work with a reproductive justice group with my local church, and I'm glad I do that work, but it feels so small compared to what needs to be done. The need is so huge, and our country just has no respect for pregnant women, and it's just really disheartening. We are supposed to be encouraging moms to have more babies. They keep saying, we need more babies. Like, there's a lot of natalists out there talking about birth and babies, and they wish more people would have babies. But why would you want to have babies in a world where that's how women are treated? They're just thrown into a cell and put on a floor with no health care whatsoever. And then you hear stories about like the women in, I think it was Georgia. I mean, the stories are a couple years old, but they're just coming out that they were forcing women to have C-sections against their will. At least 2 Black women were found that had this scenario where while they were in labor in a hospital in Georgia. It might have been even the same hospital. I'm not sure. I'm not clear on the details, but while they were in the hospital, they wheeled a Zoom meeting, TV with a Zoom meeting ongoing, into the labor and delivery room, and they were like, there's a judge on here, and they're going to make a judgment on whether or not we're going to do a C-section on you. After these women had said very plainly, like, no, I'm not signing, I'm not going to have a C-section, I'm not doing it. And there were risk factors for both of them, and, you know, but people still have autonomy, or should have autonomy, over their own bodies. And it's really scary to hear these stories about women being forced to undergo, you know, major abdominal surgery because there's a perceived risk that they're gonna, you know, something's gonna happen to the infant, which, you know, one of them had, I think, 3 C-sections previously. So, of course, the risk goes up every time you have a C-section. It's more likely that something terrible will happen because you've had that many surgeries on your belly. Excuse me, I'm drinking a little wine here while I talk about this. While you have that many surgeries on your belly, obviously the risks of, like, things like uterine rupture, which is probably what they were telling her was going to happen, goes up. It's still a very small risk. It does increase every time you have a C-section, but overall it's a small-ish risk. But she was, see, the thing is, she was a doula and a childbirth educator and was very aware of what could and couldn't happen. And so I don't know. It's like, if someone is very educated and aware of, like, what the risks are, why are we forcing them to have a surgery against their will? Like, this should not be happening. And it just, it dehumanizes people. It makes me feel like I'm not a black woman being strapped down and wheeled against my will into a delivery, you know, surgery suite. But I feel like I was right there with her. I feel like I'm a piece of meat. I feel like my daughter is her vagina is no longer her property, you know? Like, she won't be able to make decisions about her body in the future. Because these things, you know, make a legal precedent, which is really scary. It's really scary that we're just forcing. And then that other woman, I think that she might have been in North Carolina or Georgia or something. I forget. I wrote a paper about her, but I can't remember what state, honestly. But the one that was kept alive after a car, no, not a car accident, I'm sorry. I think she had a blood clot or something, but she was kept alive on an incubator for, 7 months, 6 months or something, to basically to grow a fetus that was not developed yet. Oh, there's my beautiful daughter, Stella. Hi, Stella. You look like a beautiful lady. She's, oh, I'm making a podcast. So, anyway, my daughter grabbed the phone. But anyways, yeah, it's really to be treated like we're just meat. We're just incubators. Oh, she can wear it for a minute, Elwyn. No. Well, you know it's yours. This is my other kid, Elwyn. He is 4. Hey, Elwyn, stop. So anyways, yeah, it's just so discouraging. It's so discouraging to see women being treated as incubators or just, you know, breeding cows, basically. And we are not allowed to make... I know. We're not allowed to make critical decisions about our own bodies. Is just so frightening. And meanwhile, while this is happening, and oh yeah, and of course also whenever women are having miscarriages in states that, like, where Roe, you know, after Roe was overturned, and states that have made abortion illegal, people that are having miscarriages are being held accountable as though they killed their babies. Some are being imprisoned and jailed, some for life. It's just really wild.
Hey,
like,
look.
Stop. It's really wild that can happen. It's not as though women wish their bodies into miscarriage. I mean, talk to anybody that's had a miscarriage. And almost all women have at some point, is the other thing. So should we all just be imprisoned because we're clearly all murderers? Like, it's just scary. So that's what we're dealing with. Indiana is where I live, and it is a state that has some of this backward ass legislation too, which is why I feel like speaking out about this, because I hate to see the day when, like, my daughter is jailed because she had a miscarriage. She's grieving the loss of a baby and she goes to prison because she has a miscarriage, you know? Or like she improperly disposes of a fetus. That's yet another thing that's happening. Yeah, I saw, honey. That's another thing that's happening is people are being jailed and, you know, sent to court for improperly disposing of a fetus. And well, what are we supposed to, like at what, first of all, at what point does your menstrual blood become a fetus? And are we going to have like special receptacles for every time we bleed? It's just, it's really gross. And, you know, it's a nightmare. I don't know how else to say it. So I feel like I need to speak out because I live in a state that could very easily, I haven't heard any stories like that yet. I haven't heard of anyone being imprisoned for life for having a miscarriage, but we definitely live in one of those states where that could be happening. So that's not the world I want. That's definitely not the world I want for my children. And anybody who does want that world needs to have their head examined, because that is insane. So, yeah. Well, maybe I will do more later, but, yeah, welcome to the Student Midwife podcast. I guess it's going to be chaotic, as it usually is here, and, when you have kids, it can be kind of chaotic around sometimes. So, can I show you guys my cool tattoo? Isn't that neat? I love that tattoo. That was actually at a fundraiser. I went to a tattoo fundraiser. And I didn't know how tattoo fundraisers worked. So I went in and I said, this is what I want. And they said, no, you can just choose from these, you know, couple designs. And I said, I don't want any of those. Those aren't cool. That's not what I want. And the one tattoo artist was like, well, let me see what you've drawn. I want to see what you want. And he said, I'll do that on you, even though it's not supposed to be how we do it today. I said, great. And he only charged me $100 for that. So I know that's a tattoo that's worth like $300 or something. I actually don't know, actually. I don't price tattoos because I usually get them for free from friends. But yeah, so he did that for me, and it was a fundraiser for this very unique, it's called Tandem, and look it up. It's in Bloomington, Indiana, and it is the coolest place, I swear. They do postpartum. They have like a postpartum house where they'll take anybody, even if you can't pay anything, to give them like a respite from being moms with no rest, you know. And they have like a diaper program where they give away diapers. They have free mental health classes. They have parenting classes. They are a really cool organization. I'm so proud of them, honestly. They've started with nothing, just a dream, basically. A couple moms pushing babies in strollers in the park together had a dream, and they started it. And I'm like, to me, that's incredible. They've kept it going for, I don't know, 5 years, I think, something like that. With like no funding, and like it's just amazing sometimes the community things that happen, just because women are like, no, damn it, this is gonna happen, we want this in our community, we need this in our community, and they made it happen. And I'm so proud of them. I'm friends with some of the folks that work there. Shout out to Julie, the amazing woman who keeps it all going. But yeah, I worked for them briefly. But anyway, I have a strong a strong love of tandem, and I think what they do is really remarkable. I think the Hoosier Abortion Fund is like connected to them now too. I'm not sure about that. That might not be true. Well, anyway, have a good day. Bye.